All right, so last time we talked about the basics of classes. Now we're going to see them at work. So we're going to create two very simple classes. And as we go along, these classes are going to evolve with the power of inheritance and composition. So for now, we're going to start by creating a simple employee class. So we're going to say class employee. And for class names, I like to capitalize them using more of the typical capitalize every word setup. So we say class to tell Python that this is indeed a class we are building. We give it a name, colon, we indent the next line. Now the next step in this is to create our instance variables, and we do this just within our dunder init function. And this is an instance method, so we want to say self, comma, and here we can decide what member variables we need. So we'll say that an employee has an ID number and a name. So we'll say ID name. And now this part couldn't be any easier. We'll say self dot ID equals ID. This is why we need self here. This is saying for this instance, for whichever instance of this class is calling this function, we want to set its ID to the one supplied in our parameter list. And we want to do the same thing for name. Self.name equals name. And this is usually going to be the gist of what you can expect from your dunder init, is you're just going to take these inputs and you're going to create your instance variables from them. Now, the other thing to do is a dunder string. So back up to the same level of indentation as this last def. We're going to say def dunder string. Open it up, we will say self. This is all we need because we're just going to print the instance variables in a meaningful fashion. Well, not necessarily print. We're going to return a stringification of them. So here's what I mean. So we're going to create a string called toString, your message or whatever. And we're going to set this to self.id plus colon space plus self.name. And that's it. So we're going to now return toString. Okay, so that's that function done. Now let's test it. So the way we do that is we're just going to create an instance and we're going to print it. So we're going to say new employee equals employee, and we're going to pass it 1100 and Jim Mitchell. So now we have created a new instance of employee. We have given it an ID of 1100 and a name of Jim Mitchell. And then we have stored that in new employee here. Now let's print a stringification of new employee. Now we're going to save this. I'll save this in my downloads folder. Call it classes. CD into our downloads folder, and we're going to run it. Python classes.py, and it's going to return an error. Let's see what the problem is. We read our stack trace here and see what the issue is. toString self.id. Yes, because this needs to be stringified. Simple fix. Go away tooltip. We'll be talking about the stack trace here later on, but I'll say for now, read it from bottom to top. Don't read it from top to bottom, because the most likely important source of information is going to be last. So let's run this one more time. And there we go, 1100 : Jim Mitchell. Now, let's build a simple character class. Make a little extra room. We're going to say class character. Oops. Colon. We're going to do something very similar. We're going to have our def under init. And we're going to say self colon or comma. We're going to say name. And we're going to say type. And then lastly, HP for hit points. So we'll say that type can be player, NPC, or hostile. And that's just a constraint that we would apply within our code elsewhere. So I say self.name equals name, self.type equals type. So actually we can't use type because type is a function. Self dot, let's say species instead. And we'll say it could be things like human, elf, dwarf. Self dot species. And then self.hp equals HP. All right, if the tooltips would get out of my face. All right, so now we're going to do our string. So def under str self, and we're going to do the same thing. toString equals self.name plus, and we're going to say it's going to be colon and then a new line, and then we're going to toString plus equals \T for tab. We're going to tab out. I'm going to say species plus species. Autocomplete decided to mess with me. toString plus equals, we'll do this again, tab HP plus string self.hp. And then return toString. toString. Thank you. All right, so let's create another one of these. We're going to make a new character equals, use the character class name, and this calls the constructor. We're going to say name equals Fabio. Let's say species is a werewolf. It's spooky season, why not? And we'll say he has 255 hit points. And now we're going to print string new character. Save it, And we're gonna run and test and make sure I did everything right. Let's do a quick CLS. I did forget to bring this down to the next line. So what we're gonna do is at the end of this here, we're going to plus new line. All right, see that again. That's more like what I wanted to see. So that's going to cover the basics of classes. You can see it takes a little bit of time to create a class and then use it. So you need to allot yourself plenty of time for the construction of these classes and also to test and make sure they work, because it is very easy for errors to creep up no matter how experienced you are. So give yourself tons of time to work. When we come back next time, we're going to talk about composition. We're going to take another class and we're going to jam it inside of our existing classes. We're also going to talk inheritance. In fact, it's probably best that we talk inheritance first. So we'll talk about that in the next couple of videos. So stick around.